Greetings, beautiful people, and welcome to Bad Thought Therapy. I'm Sheree Hardy. I pray that you and your family are well. Thank you for listening and learning with me. You may not believe it, but Sunday I had done a great episode with a special guest, Teresa Oliver, who is a supervised mental health therapist, among other things. And for whatever the reason, the sound was it was such a poor quality. I decided not to upload and publish that episode. Now, Teresa and I talked about healing our memories. It was a great conversation. We're going to try to do it again. I'm going to work on getting my technical problems resolved. But I could not air that. But I do want to talk about some of the things that we shared that you can use, actions that you can take to reduce anxiety. So this episode is titled 7 Effective Actions for Reducing Anxiety. Both Teresa and I have done all of these things, and they are highly effective. And there is so much going on in the world. We see the news stories, just the tragedy, and I try not to do doom scrolling, but I am a person who does engage in it, and I have to really be mindful of stopping myself because I'm an avid reader and I will read the news, and sometimes I will watch videos. And then, of course, I have my own issues. And it's just a fact that we cannot be desensitized to what we see, what we hear, what we experience. We are going to be affected by whatever we hear and see and the experiences that we have. So we have to be mindful to guard our minds and our hearts. Anxiety is a normal emotion that everyone will experience at some point in their lives. The issue is when anxiety becomes clinical. So there is just the emotion of feeling nervous or uneasy. You may have fear, but these are normal emotions that you can work through if you are healthy. But then there's a level where anxiety can become clinical. And this is when you feel so distressed or you're so worried about some kind of bad experience that your body has a physiological reaction to the emotional or psychological or mental issues. And that is when you need to see a professional. And I'm going to put Teresa's information in the description box. Teresa Oliver, she is the founder of a great nonprofit called Acacia Inner Prize, Inner INNER Prize. So it's a little pun, play on the word. And she would be a great person to talk to. I will put her website in the description box so you will have a way to contact her and connect with her. But I'm going to talk about anxiety and I'm going to talk about ways that you can reduce it. These are things that I have done personally for the last, since I've really been a child. Some of these things I've done as a child. So I've done these things almost for 6 decades. And I want you to be empowered because I know that there is so much going on, and I know it's hard sometimes not to internalize some of the things that we see that are negative in the news. That we all, again, we have personal things going on, whether it's work, whether it's finances, whether it's relationships. But when we have these experiences, it's not the experiences that make us or break us, it's all about how we respond. Because one of the things that I say over and over and over again in this podcast is that God does not change life, He changes us. So even if you're a person of faith and you know that there is a higher power, it doesn't mean you're exempt from going through challenging times. Some of these things we all go through, different variations of it, and we just need to know that it's not about what happens to us. It truly is about how we respond. So in this episode, I'm going to deal with some actions you can take to reduce anxiety. I want to emphasize, if you feel that you're having some kind of physiological response because of anxiety, because of worry, because of fear, then that is when you need to talk to a professional. And I am going to share Teresa Oliver's information with you. Well, again, thank you for listening and learning. Let's keep going. Again, anxiety is a normal emotion, and it's something that we all have because we are human. We can feel uneasy and nervous and even fearful at times. But we should not stay in a state of distress and nervousness. We should be able to work through that. And when a person cannot, again, it becomes a very serious issue and it can become a clinical issue. But if you are just experiencing normal human anxiety that happens to most people, these are some strategies that you can use to reduce your anxiety. And I've used these things, they're highly effective. And if you haven't tried them, I always tell you, if I bake a cake and I tell you it's good, how would you know it's good? You would have to try it. You'd have to taste it. So I hope that you will try some of these things if you have not already. And then I want you to let me know how they worked out for you. So, and there is no particular order that I'm going to share here. So, one of the things that I do when I feel very overwhelmed and I'm concerned about an issue, I pause. I get quiet. I don't do anything. I sit quietly. And now, sometimes I will sit quietly and I will look at an image. I will take an image that is very calming to me. It can be of water, it can be flowers. And now we've advanced with technology. You could even watch a very calming video. So one of the things you could do that's so simple, I know we think, okay, if I don't stop, if I don't keep going, if I don't do something, then I'm not going to change my situation, or by my being inactive, the problem won't be solved. But actually, on the contrary, sometimes when you pause and do nothing, and you have the moment to sit quietly, you're able to get answers from the Most High God. You're able to really start to think and be introspective about what is really happening, because you're not actually, reacting emotionally. Now you're starting to respond cerebrally. You're thinking, you're looking at all different aspects of the issue. Sitting quietly is a very simple, it is totally free a way to deal with anxiety. Again, you can add to that sit quietly by, watching or looking at a certain image, looking at a calming video, but you can close your eyes and you can have some soft music and just get quiet. And we'll get into listening to music in a few minutes. One of the things I strongly recommend to do every single day is to put aside some time to be alone where everything is turned off. You turn off your television, you turn off your cell phone, your social media, you just turn everything off and you get by yourself and you use that time to have fellowship with the Most High God. And when I say fellowship, it's just like, going somewhere with a friend. Your fellowship is you're talking, you are listening, you are having an experience. I cannot stress this upon people enough. We are not just physical beings. And that's just a fact. We are more than just flesh and bones. We are also spirit. And some people would even argue that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And that's that famous quote. It's by some French guy. I can't think of the name right now, but that is true. And God is a spirit. And when we connect with the source of power and the one who made us and the one who made everything, we get quiet, we can begin to get answers. It's like God will start to download the things that we need to know to do the things that He has called us to do. And when we're just moving all the time and we have all this stimuli around us or we're overstimulated, it's very hard to think clearly. It's very hard to be calm. And all of that stimuli and noise and chaos and all these different issues, all they do is they increase the sense of anxiety. So I recommend every single day is sitting quietly somewhere, getting by yourself, asking God to reveal Himself to you, to give you answers, or to pour out whatever you think that you need to do. Another thing that I emphasize, and I know I sound redundant if you listen to this podcast, is you must learn to free yourself and to get healing and to grow and to have elevated living. You must learn how to distinguish the difference between religion and relationship. My heart grieves because when I first started Bad Thought Therapy, the reason why I started Bad Thought Therapy is I met so many people who were broken and who were hurting and who were confused about religion and relationship. They thought that religion and relationship with God were synonymous, and that is simply not true. Now, good religion has the potential to help strengthen a person's relationship with God. Unfortunately, and it is heartbreaking, many religious organizations are man-centered. They're not God-focused. They're not God-centered. They're focused on you building relationships with men. And while that can be a good thing to help you strengthen your relationship with God, the number one thing that you must understand, your most important relationship is with God. Religion is all about, rules and regulations and traditions and certain kinds of practices. And then when you don't do those things, then some kind of way you're so wrong that you are unworthy to even be able to grow and have a relationship with God. I want to tell you something, and I'm going to use the Bible that many people use when they misuse, is the story of Abraham, where there was no religion and he had no books, but yet he knew to talk and fellowship with God, and he built altars all over the nation and land where he lived. And that is what God requires of us. We are just like this laptop is connected to the source of power. And while if I unplugged it, it would work for a while. Eventually, if I did not replug it, it would cut off. And we're like that. To be our best and to have a level of living that gives us life and life more abundantly, we have to have relationship. Relationship is personalized. God has made billions of people and no one has the same set of fingerprints. And that is because he wants us to be different. Even though we all share certain human attributes, we got to have a beating heart. We need our lungs need to work, those kinds of things. But then we're all different and we're special. And we cannot experience that without having a personal relationship with God. And unfortunately, and again, my heart breaks, is so many people have misused the Bible. Either it is out of pure ignorance because many people don't know, they've never studied the history of the Bible, or it is intentional to manipulate people. But when you have relationship and you fellowship with God, God will give you answers directly. You will hear his voice in your heart, and he will tell you where to go, what to read, who to talk to. He will give you, I'm telling you what I know, not what I think. He will give you direction. He will give you peace. He is there 24/7, 7 days a week. You don't have to worry about your business being out in the streets. But you gotta take that time. I don't care what you have to do and how overwhelmed you may feel. You gotta take that time to sit quietly. When you begin to sit quietly and you begin to talk to God, let me tell you, your anxiety, it's sort of like a phenomenon because you really cannot understand it. God will truly give you a peace that surpasses all human understanding. You must try it. So set aside time every single day to just sit quietly. And I'm talking about when you don't even talk, you just sit quietly and then you go into your prayer. I call it getting deep. Drop everything and enter prayer. Get deep. And that is when you will see your anxiety be reduced. I've learned that God either changes us or he changes the situation. And because the Holy Spirit works in ways we cannot always understand with our limited and finite logic, because he always works, you will have a peace. And the more you experience challenges And the more you learn to trust God and to go to Him, and the more better experiences you have with Him, helping you, guiding you, the more you learn that He is always there. And it's hard. They always say you can't pray and worry at the same time. You got to do one or the other. It's true. The more you pray, the less you worry. The more you worry, the less you pray. That anxiety is going to increase. So that's one thing I like to do, is sit quietly. Again, you can add some visuals to it, and you want to sit quietly and then go into your prayer. Here's another simple thing you can do, and Teresa and I talked about this. Again, I hope you reach out to her. You can deep breathe. You want to breathe deeply. Inhale very slowly. Hold for a few seconds and exhale. Especially, this is a technique that works when you're in the moment and you're going through a very scary situation or frustrating situation or difficult situation, to pause and just deep breathe, because what it does is it'll slow down your heart rate. It'll bring that blood pressure back down. I remember this happened not too long ago, but whenever there was this disaster, I want to say either in Puerto Rico or Dominican Republic, there was a doctor over there that went over there to help, and they didn't have a lot of equipment. And he had this one guy that was going through shock or post-traumatic stress, and he was trying to get the guy to calm down. And he took a paper bag and he told the guy to deep breathe slowly, and breathe in and out, exhale, inhale very slowly. And that guy's blood pressure went down and was normalized just because of deep breathing. There are a lot of studies done on this. It works, it works, and it's totally free. To be still and to deep breathe, to inhale and hold a few seconds, and then to exhale very slowly. I like to inhale from my nostrils very slowly, and I exhale very slowly from my mouth. And you can do some research on this. I don't want to tell you exactly what to do, because I want it to be personalized. There's not just one way to deep breathe. There are many ways you can do it. Teresa talked about her one nostril method. Again, I'm going to put her information in the description box so you can check her out, and check her out on social media to know how you can deep breathe. There's so many different ways. Some people practice Tai Chi. I used to try to practice Tai Chi. There's yoga. Some people practice that. There are many other exercises that also involve deep breathing. So it's a great way to calm yourself. I'm an educator, some of you all know this, and there are times when I feel a little overwhelmed, a little stressful, and I've learned before I open my mouth, okay, when I'm dealing with a situation, I pause and I take some deep breaths. And people say count to 10, and that works too. While you're deep breathing, you deep breathe until you count to 10, till you count to 25, until you feel like you're in control of your emotions. Scientists have done a lot of studies on success in the last probably 25, 30 years. What are the ingredients for success? What makes some people more successful than others? What they have discovered is not about intellect. It's not about how much money you have. It's not about your connections. It's really about your emotional regulation. We are also emotional beings, and we all go through a myriad of different emotions, different variations of the same emotions, whether it is anger, disappointment, grief, jealousy, all of these emotions that everybody goes through. But it's about how you regulate, how you work through your emotions that will ultimately determine how successful you are. It is very important to understand that deep breathing will help you with regulating your emotions so that you don't become reactive. Someone says something and you explode, or you have this volcanic response, or someone does something you don't like and then you do something in a fit of emotion, whatever that is, whether it's anger, violence, whatever that is, and then you end up losing everything. You end up hurting yourself and hurting other people and hurting your family. Deep breathing is a way when you're dealing with a very stressful situation in the moment to calm yourself and to help you with your emotional regulation. And I've learned to just not say anything. When you're upset, the best thing to do is say, look, I'm really upset right now. I'm really hot right now. I need a moment. I'm not saying anything. And I've done that. As a teacher, I'm like, you know what? Y'all, I need a minute because you all are showing out, and I'll say that and I'll get my deep breathing in. I might step outside the classroom, or I might tell everybody, you got to get quiet. And we all do it together, and then we go back and we try to work through that situation. But that's what you got to do. Every single day in the news, people are losing their lives, their freedom, their money, their everything because of the lack of emotional regulation. And part of that comes from the fact most people are not taught. They're not taught how to be calm, how to deal with their own anxiety. Sometimes people will see a person and they'll say, well, she was so angry. But really, the person wasn't angry at all. That person was hurting, because anger and pain are fraternal twins. Sometimes we misname the emotions that people are going through, but really, a lot of people are hurting. And you've heard it before, hurt people hurt people. And the response that we choose to deal with challenges and difficult situations, that response is usually based on what we know and what we have experienced. So the reason why I do bad thought therapy is to try to tell you things you can do to create a different response, to create new experiences. That's a gift that you have. You have a gift. It's a gift that you were born with. It is innate, and that is the ability to create. So whatever it is you need in your life, believe it or not, let me be someone to tell you, if no one has, you have the ability to create, whether it's peace, love, joy, these intangible things that you can't put a price tag on. And once you learn that you have that ability to create, and then you understand you can create an emotional response to different situations where you, in the end, instead of being worse off, you're better. Where you learn that you can transform situations, and it starts with you just learning to be calm and deal with your anxiety, because a lot of times people are responding out of fear. So deep breathing is another thing. Here's another one that I love, and that is saying affirmations. An affirmation is a positive statement. And I use, well, like as a classroom teacher, we'll start off with the I, and then the we, and then the you. It's basically you say something positive and you put it in yourself, because whatever is in you is the only thing that can come out. So one of the things I emphasize is the reason why so many people are acting out, and they're acting out in a negative way, because they don't put any good things in them. You have to put good in you for good to come out. The demonstration that I use with my students, I will take a bottle of water, because I drink a lot of water, and so I will pour that bottle of water over into my plants. And then I'll say, what's coming out of the bottle? Everybody say, water. Is tea coming out? No. Is orange juice coming out? No. Is apple juice coming out? No. You get where I'm going, right? So it can't come out because it's not in the bottle. You are like a bottle of water. You are like a vessel. Whatever is in you cannot come out. So you must put positive things in you. How do they get in you? Well, number one is what you say to yourself. Other people can try to say things to you too. That's how you can get in you. That's why you got to reject, and we'll get into that, reject negative words that are projected onto you. What you watch, what you listen to. But if you are a person and you grew up and you had a lot of challenges where people might not have been kind to you and might not have said good things to you, and they might not have strengthened the development of your self-worth and your self-esteem, you got to put that in you. You have to say, I am worthy. You have to say, I am beautiful. I am whatever. I remember when Teresa and I were talking, and again, I just hate that episode. The sound quality was just too bad to try to publish. But she was saying that she had been assaulted when she was young. and when she was younger, and she would say to herself, one of the affirmations she would say is, I am safe. And that's a powerful affirmation that I too have used, where you're having a flashback of some traumatic moment and you were experiencing a lot of pain. And if you're not careful, you can literally have a physiological response by remembering a trauma, a violation, or some kind of assault. And you have to literally say aloud, I am safe, and repeat it. And the thing about affirmations is they can be repeated over and over and over again. I am safe. I am whole. I am sane. I am well. You put it in you, and there is power in that. And don't diminish that power, because we know that words have the power to create life or death. Words have the power to manifest certain things in our lives. Words have the power to remove certain things in our lives. And I don't speak about things that I have not experienced personally. I just can't do that. I won't do it, and I can't. And so I use positive affirmations every day. As a teacher, we start off with our affirmation, I. Then I tell them to look at someone in the eye and say you. And then we use the pronoun we, and we all say it together, because we are in a family. And we must learn that we must be our brothers and sisters' keeper. We must understand that when God created people, He wanted us to be interdependent. He wanted us to work together and share our resources. And when we do that, we have so much more. We have so much more. We do that. I've seen it. I've talked about it on this podcast. There are people that come to this country and they have nothing. I'm talking about absolutely nothing. And then the next thing you know, they have homes, they have cars, they have money in the bank. You know why? Because they're sharing their resources. And they understand that if we don't work together, they don't work together, they are not going to be as powerful as they can. So let's just recap before we move on. Number one, sitting quietly is powerful. Just not saying anything, just looking at a beautiful image, or looking at a beautiful video with no words, but maybe some soft sounds. And we'll get into sound in just a few minutes. And then deep breathe. You'd be amazed when you're upset. Somebody says something or does something, or you say something and do something, and you need to be calm. It can help you calm yourself before you react in a way that costs you to lose everything. That not only hurts you, but hurts the people around you. You know, when my daughter was growing up, I would tell her all the time, everything you do is going to impact me, and everything I do is going to impact you. You got to understand that when something happens to us or we do something, it doesn't just impact us. It also impacts our family. And we see this in news stories where one person does something and then everybody around them are saying, hey, wait a minute, y'all are coming from me, but I didn't have anything to do with it. No, you're connected. You are guilty by association, or you are blessed by association. And that is the way it is. And maybe it should be that way, but that is the way it is. Look at the case that's happened in Mississippi. The tragedy, it's heart-wrenching. A young man was out with people, and I'm not going to call them friends because they were not his friends. We're out with people celebrating, and now he is no longer on this side. And no one seems to know what has happened to him. They've all colluded together. That's what hurts. They've all collaborated to keep this a secret. And it hurts to know that no one will step forth. And this is sidebar, y'all. I will say affirmation. And no one will step forth and tell the truth. But that is why it's so critical for you to remember that everything we do and everything we believe, our value systems, our thoughts, they are going to not only affect us, but affect other people. And I know how I got here. I was talking about deep breathing, because deep breathing will help you regulate your emotions. And that's what we need. Last thing before we move on, there's some more things. You need to say affirmations. They are powerful. Say them every single day. But when I'm dealing with a certain situation, that's when I will even say them even more. And the more that I say them, the more that gets inside of me, the better I feel, the stronger I feel. And then I'm able to maybe do something that is a challenge for me. I'm one of those people, like, even if I feel afraid, I'm still going to do it. Because I just do a lot of things. I may feel afraid. I'm saying, you know what? Even though I'm afraid, I say those affirmations. I pray. I trust in God, and I move forward. And some people will say you don't fail. If you don't get what you want, then God didn't want you to have it, or you learn the lesson from it and you move on. You're always a winner. All right, let's keep going. Listening to music is another way to reduce your anxiety. Now, there are certain types of music that you can listen to, and it might increase your anxiety. It might get you, as they say, crunked up. I'm not talking about that kind of music, but when you're anxious, what you want to do is you want to listen to soft music. You want to use sound therapy. I'm one of those people, I listen to Hertz, certain types of Hertz, depending on what I need. I will listen to rain. I will just listen to very soft sounds. There's different sounds like green noise, white noise, even pink noise, brown noise. There are people who have studied sound therapy, and it works. Let me tell you, every night I use sound therapy. Every single night I have a playlist. I put that playlist on and I play that sound, and the next thing I know, I am in a deep sleep. You gotta get the sound that works for you, because sometimes I'll switch it out. But listening to calming music can really reduce anxiety. Something very simple. And even though I have Apple Music, if I wanted to use YouTube, I could. You can go to YouTube. They have what they call ad-free YouTube channels that just play like rainwater and soothing sounds, and they call it sleep music. And it really does help people reduce their anxiety and go to sleep. Because in order for you to have a healthy body, in order for you to have energy, you gotta get sleep. When you have anxiety, it's very hard to go to sleep. And that is why I am going over these strategies, these actions that really do work. And they are free, they don't cost anything, they are totally free, and they are highly effective. And because I care and I want you to get this sleep, I want you to be able to relax, I'm just going to continue to share these strategies. So listening to music is on the list. Here's another one that's powerful. Now, I'm aging and I'm not aging as well as I need to, and that is move. We got to move. I used to walk everywhere. I just marvel when I think about the distances that I used to walk and how almost every day, Monday through Friday after work, I would walk. I remember my daughter, when she was like 3 or 4, she would have a big wheel and she'd be on her big wheel and I'd be walking. And I just remember how good I felt. And when she graduated from college, now mind you, this is like a little over 10 years ago, like 13, 14 years ago, I walked up and down the stairs like it was nothing. Today, I got to hold on to the rail. Like I said, wait a minute now. I know there's something called age acceleration, but we got to move. So I am starting to move. I found some great exercises that are easy for me to do, whether it's dancing. And some people, like I work with people, they go line dancing and they're good too. Line dancing, African dancing. People are into yoga, they're into Tai Chi. I got to get back into my Tai Chi. But I'm doing now like movements that I can do that help with circulation. And it's really powerful to move. The thing is, we've got to be consistent, because I need to move every single day for at least 25 minutes. And that's my challenge. So I'm talking to myself. I'm both student and teacher in these videos. So definitely movement. But when I used to walk, just remember how therapeutic it was. I would feel so good, especially being able to walk in nature. Now that changed a little bit because of the dogs, because the last time I tried to walk at a park, somebody had a big dog. They looked like they were having trouble controlling their dog. And I walk with something not on me. I'm just gonna say it like this. So somebody's dog was gonna get hurt if I had gotten to my thing before the dog got to me. And I said, you know what? This is sad that I cannot even walk at a park without having to deal with that. And I've heard these horror stories. Then at one point I was just walking in my house. Like I was just literally walking around the wall from the living room to the kitchen. And it was working. And it was so working. And here's the irony. I was literally stretching. This happened earlier this year, probably like February. I was stretching and I pulled something. I pulled a muscle. And you know, guys, I haven't been able to quite get that out, that kink out of my leg. I'm like, no. So I am praying. I'm doing my affirmations. I'm doing my deep breathing because I have got to age well and lose weight and be happy and not get older with all this extra stuff. So movement is a powerful way to release and reduce anxiety. Another thing that I have done since I was very young, and I really do it now more than ever, and that is I journal. I'm a person, I really believe that when you put your thoughts down on paper, there's something that is sort of like they always say when you write something, it reinforces your memory of it. There is something very therapeutic about writing. And I have different types of journals. I have a gratitude journal where I just sort of write these little special things that I feel like God is doing in my life. And then at the end of the year, on the 31st, the last day of the year, I like to go through my gratitude journal and just sort of reflect and remember those special moments. I call them, God kissing me on the cheek. I have done that for a good 35 years. And I'm telling you, it is one of the most powerful things you can do is to go to the dollar store, very inexpensive notepad or journal, and start to write down your thoughts. And again, I have a gratitude journal. Another thing that I have is I have a prayer journal. And this has been very powerful for me because I watch the news. I live with my eyes wide open. And it's very hard for me sometimes to detach a news story from my own personal life. I'm one of those people like some people say, well, I never thought it could happen to me. No, I'm just the total opposite. I believe it can, if it happened to somebody else, it could happen to me. And so I have to be very careful. And then the kind of programming that I watch sometimes. And what I've learned is that because you can feel overwhelmed and you can feel helpless. Like you're seeing all these different problems. And for those of us who are humanitarians and we have these big hearts and we care, it can be very, very overwhelming and it can sometimes even create fear and nervousness. So what I do is I keep a prayer journal. And when I see things in the news, especially when I see things that just seem so unfair and they're wrong, and it may even seem like people are getting away with it, I put those names down in my prayer book. Or if I see someone hurting and I know that they need healing or they need help, and I don't feel like I in my little self can help anybody, I will pray and I put that in my prayer journal. And when I pray, sometimes I will hold my journal and whatever I put in that journal, I'm praying about it because there's so much in this world to pray about. Let me tell you, God does answer prayer. I've prayed about some things that, just being overwhelmed, and then I'll write them down because there's something about writing them down. And I'm telling you, God will answer your prayers. So they're different kinds of journals. Again, I don't want to specifically tell you what journal you should have or not have, but a journal is a very powerful thing. Again, I used to keep like more like a kind of diary kind of journal where you kind of write about what happened, but I started targeting my journals when my daughter was very, very young, and it has been so empowering to me. So I want to say that that is another powerful way to deal with anxiety is journaling. Last but certainly not least, and I've already mentioned it, one of the most effective ways to deal with anxiety and to reduce it is to pray. And if you're not sure of what prayer is, it's very simple. It is simply communicating with God, talking to God, listening to God. That's all prayer is. We use that term to refer to communication. Again, it's critical that when you pray that you're by yourself and that you have turned off everything, that you don't have any distractions. Because if you're trying to pray and have this intimacy with God and you got all this background stimuli, a noise, it's very hard to hear God's voice. It's very hard to get answers. But when you are quiet and you pray and you talk to the Most High God, He is real. And the thing I love is that you don't have to make an appointment. You don't have to get dressed. You don't have to worry about anybody shaming you. You don't have to worry about anybody telling your business. You can tell God your deepest secrets, and they are safe with Him. I'm a witness. I go to God about everything, whether it's a big issue, a small issue, or in between. If I feel overwhelmed and I want to release it, or I want answers, or I need guidance, like I'm like, God, tell me what to do, tell me where to go, I take it to God. And every time that I do that, my anxiety is reduced. I don't feel anxious once I go to God and then I release and then I listen, I get quiet. A lot of times when we pray and we go to God about an issue and we tell Him all about it, sometimes the answers don't just they're not downloaded instantly. Sometimes there's a very slow download and you're asking God for guidance and answers. And then as you begin to move and every day slowly, when you're quiet, God will begin to speak to you. He may do it through something you see. He may do it through a person. A person may come up to you, maybe something you read, something you hear. But God will always give you answers. And the answers may be yes, they may be no, they may be not now, but God is going to give you the answers. A lot of people pray or say that one of the most powerful prayers is to pray for God's will to be done. I say that the most powerful prayer is to pray to be able to accept God's will. Because even though we are part spirit, we're still carnal. And we are a lot of times we're wrestling with God. We're resisting instead of just surrendering to whatever God has for us. That's where the anxiety comes from. We're afraid that if we don't take action, if we don't do something, then some kind of way our problem won't be solved, or we're going to hurt or suffer, and we're trying to avoid that. I have learned to pray for whatever I need, whatever I desire, but then I have to pray, God, give me the strength to accept your will. I want to accept whatever your will, because let me tell you, I know that God knows what is best for us. He is omniscient and can see what we can't see. He knows the future and we don't. He knows the things that are hidden. And and it's hard, and you got to surrender because you're thinking, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that. No, all you got to do is be still. Be still, and God will let you know that He has heard you. But you pray to be able to accept His will, because His will be done. Okay, it's going to be done, but you got to have the ability to accept it in order to not have anxiety, to have peace. When I was younger, I would think, okay, health is the greatest blessing from God. Like if you have your health, you can do anything, you can work, you can get up, you got all your body parts, all that. Then money, a lot of times, is a blessing that people are praying for. But I have found in just my six decades being on this planet, 6 decades, is that peace is the greatest blessing. Because I know people with money and they do not have peace. I know people that are loved, they don't have peace. There are so many people who are suffering because they don't have peace. They are anxious, they are uneasy, they're nervous, they're fearful, they're distressed. And then when you don't manage that, it escalates, it is exacerbated by different things, and then it becomes clinical. And that's when it becomes very dangerous. And so I found that just talking to God will remove that anxiety, that He truly does hear, and He'll let me know He hears. He will let me know that He heard me. He'll show me that He answered my prayers. And one year, this was like, God, this had to be like 30 something years ago. One of my students gave me a gift. I don't know what the occasion was. It was just a small book, and it had these quotes in it. And one of the quotes was, God will either change, He will either calm the storm, or He will calm His child. I never forgot that quote. This is over 30 years ago. God will either calm the storm or he will calm his child. And that's what will happen every single time. I could tell you situation after situation after situation after situation where I was anxious. I was feeling fearful. I was distressed about something either not happening or something happening. And I talked to God. I prayed. And God calmed me sometimes where I had the same stuff going on around me. Nothing in my external environment changed, but God changed me to in a way that I had a peace that I can't even explain. It's inexplicable. But then sometimes he did move. He did move in a way, and even sometimes when he moved and he removed people and he made changes that were external, it was still uncomfortable, but I understood that God was doing it for my good. And that's what you got to understand. And there were things that I prayed for when I was younger, and God just kept trying to block and trying to block. And I kept begging him. And I almost believed that God said, okay, you think you want this? Okay, I'm going to give it to you. And he did. And that's when I learned that you got to get sometimes what you don't want to know you don't want it. Because we have these delusions and we have all of these, we have our imagination and we think things are going to be one way, but God knows what's best. So whatever you go to God whatever you go to God about, just know that you also need to pray for God to give you the strength to accept his will, to totally surrender. And it's not easy because again, we're still flesh, we're still carnal. And that battle between the flesh and the spirit is always there. And we must fight. And there's a scripture, I think, in the book of James where he says, if you submit to God and resist the devil, he will flee you. We must submit to God. We must resist the enemy who is always trying to get us to give in to our flesh, to do things based on just sheer desire. When God wants us to make decisions that are good for the spirit, we got to be spiritually minded. And when we are spiritually minded, we will reap things that are spiritual. And some of the greatest blessings are spiritual. We need material things. I'm trying to get my house renovated. Like I know we have material things that we need. I know there are physical things we need. But the greatest blessings are spiritual. When we have the peace within, that is truly, truly, truly a great blessing. So I want to just thank you so much again for listening and learning with me. I want to recap the 7 highly effective actions you can take to reduce your anxiety. Number 1, don't forget to sit quietly. It is powerful. If you want to add the visuals, a nice, beautiful image to sit quietly and look at it, or maybe look at a video that has no audio, but just a great soft visual and maybe some soft sounds. Deep breathing is powerful. When you're distressed and you're fearful in that moment, now my stomach is growling. In that moment, you want to deep breathe. It will calm you down so that you will learn not to be an emotional volcano, and you will learn how to respond instead of reacting. Because in the end, your response is what's going to determine, or your reaction is how that final outcome is going to be. It's based on how you respond, not what happens to you, not what somebody did, not what somebody said, not what happened. It's all about the response. Then I am a really, really strong believer in affirmations. I believe you have to put it in you in order for it to come out. And another demonstration that I would use for my students when I'm using my water bottle demonstration, I would tell them, like, if water's in this bottle, but I started to pour tea in the bottle and I just kept pouring tea, what would happen? And most people get it, that the bottle at some point will be filled with tea and there will be no water. Well, that's how we are. Some of us have been taught so many negative things about ourselves, whether directly or indirectly. And in order to flush all that negativity out and to be stronger and to be wiser, you must just fill yourself. You must have a deluge of good stuff coming in you. And affirmations is one way to get it in you. Say, make a list. Sometimes it's good to make a list. I know when I had my business, I had like a list written out and I would carry it with me and I would say those affirmations, and it was powerful to give me peace. Again, God sometimes will calm us and sometimes he'll calm the storm, but nevertheless, getting it in you is just going to reduce your anxiety. Listen to music every night. I use sound therapy. Every night I listen to a certain kind of music that is very calming, very soothing. And I have a playlist and it's a mix and it's powerful. And if you can't get out music, it's okay. Because guess what? YouTube is filled with channels that will have this soft music and calming music that's good for you. Move. That's what I'm working on. That's the one. You got to get up and move. We know there's a lot of science behind that we feel good when we're releasing certain endorphins, certain things. When we move, that's important to move. I love journaling, writing it down. And again, you may have different types of journal, but I have a gratitude journal and I have a prayer journal. Those are the two journals that I have. And when I write it out and then I kind of reread it and I reflect on it, I feel so much better, especially my prayer journal, when I just feel overwhelmed, like the Nolan Wells case. I'm not a police officer, I'm not an attorney, but my heart just aches for those parents. It aches for his siblings, anybody that love Nolan Wells. Well, what I've done is I've added Nolan Wells and his family to my prayer book. We pray for justice. We pray for transparency. We pray for everything that has been covered by humans and try to put darkness, that light will shine through and light will overpower and reveal the truth. And we all do that. That's powerful. You pray about whatever it is. You have that prayer journal. It's powerful. And then, of course, the most important thing is to talk to God every day, all day. I take those moments when I'm quiet, I'm by myself, but sometimes in my car I'm praying. Sometimes I'm in the grocery store praying. Of course, I pray at my job. You have to pray all day, every day. Talk to God. Listen to God. We have an ancient ancestor who's given us an example of what to do before there was organized religion, before there was a book to read. Our ancestor Abraham, our great ancestor Abraham, he prayed to God. He built altars. He talked with God as if God were a friend. And we can do that. And when you do that, it will reduce your anxiety. Your situation may not change the way you think it should change or the way you want it to change. But I am a witness that God is going to either calm the storm, the external forces that are causing you anxiety, and he is going to calm his child. Those are some of the things you do. I'm going to give a bonus. I know I had said 7 things, but as I was saying those things, something came to me. The Holy Spirit gave this to me. One of the biggest ways you can reduce anxiety is you must let go of toxic people. I heard my pastor say one time that people are like elevators. I use it all the time. They would take you either up or down. And it's true. Going back to that Nolan Wells case, it was all about the people he was around. And I'm just convinced that if he was around a different set of people, he would be alive and he would be well and he would be on his way to college and doing the things that he should be able to do that he cannot because he's no longer with us. The company you keep is going to determine what you have or don't have, how you feel and don't have. Because again, we're spiritual and people have energy, which is simply their spirits. And you have to let go of toxic people. And I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy because we live in a world where because a lot of times the toxic people are connected to us biologically, or there's some people that we can't avoid to deal with because it's people on our jobs. But you have to pray about that and do your best to not allow toxic people internalize what toxic people are saying and doing. And you have to protect yourself at all costs. I don't know the guy's name, but there's a young man on Facebook that I follow. I got to get his name. I got to see if I can get an interview with him too when I get my technical stuff together. But he grew up with a lot of challenges. his mother encouraged him and his brother to engage in crime, and it was really bad. And so he had to let go of his family. And he recently did a post about he wasn't doing this because he was bitter or he was mad at anybody. He was doing it to protect himself, and he was saying that he's teaching his children to protect them. And that's my bonus to you. I'm telling you what I know. If you will let go of dark, toxic people, and I know it's sometimes easier said than done, but if you would do that, you will experience a peace you never thought imaginable. One of the ways that the enemy gets us, and this is why it's hard for some people to let go of toxic people, is because the enemy will beat us up and have us guilt trip and gaslight us and thinking that we're doing something wrong because we won't talk to people who maliciously and intentionally and continually hurt us. That, oh, we're not forgiving, we're not of God. God forgave us. We must forgive them, and you should. However, forgiveness does not mean that you give people access to your life. It does not mean that you got to be in relationship with people who do evil and they know it's wrong. They will throw a rock, they will hide their hand, they do wrong, but they have absolutely no remorse. They might even, a lot of times they won't apologize because they're unapologetic about their evil, but let's say they do. They apologize, but there is nothing that has changed about their behavior. Because in order to change, it takes a lot of effort. Change is usually a long, arduous process, and it is continual. But if they will not change and you keep dealing with them and they have shown you over and over and over again that they will hurt you, they are going to continue to hurt you. And guess what? It's going to escalate. Every now and then, my daughter and I, we will sit and we will watch Evil Lives Here. If you haven't seen Evil Lives Here, it's on HBO. And these are basically stories of domestic violence. And every single time a person does something evil, vile, vicious, and the people continue to accept it and live around them. And 99.9% of the time, that violence, that evil, it escalates. And that is how it makes the show. Someone dies. And I don't play with that anymore. Like when I realize that people have the potential to do evil and be devious, I have to let them go. And I don't have bitterness for them. Some people I pray for, some people I hope the best for, because I realize if you die and your soul is not right with God, it's not going to be good. I just believe that I'm one of those people. I'm not playing with that. So you got to make sure that you let go, not out of bitterness, but because you want to be better. Another thing I realized when I keep dealing with a person who has done evil things, I'm really enabling them to keep doing evil. And I finally had to realize, look, they've gotten used to being able to do what they do. So I got to get myself out of this situation because I'm not helping them make adjustments. And so I know it's hard. I know it's not easy. Sometimes, depending on the situation, to just pack up and leave or, get them away from you. But let me tell you something. It is a matter of life and death. And you must do that if you don't want to have the anxiety and the distress that you can have, my goodness, when you are dealing with a toxic human being. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you again for listening and learning with Bad Thought Therapy. I'm Cherie Hardy. I pray that this episode was a blessing to you. Don't forget that you can reach out to me, and my email is badthoughtherapy@gmail.com. And don't forget to connect with me on social media. Take care.